Scotland, what does it mean to you?
Landscapes and incredible Highland scenery.
Mighty castles.
Bloody battles.
Standing stones from the dawn of history.
Whisky that tastes like you're eating the whole fireplace.
Highland hospitality.
For a wee country, we've got a big heart.
We are the Scotlanders, and we are thrilled to bring you this new video channel which we are going to use to share the sights, the sounds, the scenery, the epic history of Scotland with you.
I'm Neil, digitally known as Travels with a Kilt. I'm a marketer, I'm a travel blogger, and I'm one of the co-founders of the Scotlanders collaboration. The idea behind bringing these guys together was people with talent and innovation, yes, but also people who just had a shared passion for all things Scotland. For me, what I'm all about is the landscapes, the beaches that Scotland has to offer on our coastlines and hills, but also the fact to get in amongst the food and drink scene, especially when whisky's involved. And of course, the chance to come to fantastic ruins like these.
I'm David Weinzock, a writer, presenter, and castle hunter. I moved to Scotland 7 years ago because I grew up with a head full of Lord of the Rings and wanted to live somewhere where I actually felt like a dragon could fly overhead at any second. Here I am. It's my job to bring you to the best of Scotland's built heritage, in particular its castles, so I'm really looking forward to bringing you around the spots that I've discovered throughout the country as a Scotlander.
So between us and across social media, we've got Scotland covered. We want to show you the places that have taken our breath away, that have left us with a sense of awe, and that show just why this is the best wee country in the world.
And this video is showcasing 5 of our favourite castles across the country. There are over 2,500 to choose from, so if you were to ask us on another day, you'd get 5 different answers, and we will be showing you lots more of our favourites in future videos. But for now, we wanted to really start things off with a bang at Castle Campbell.
Kassel Campbell is one of central Scotland's most picturesque and romantically set ruins. It dominates the vast, luscious landscape in the heart of Glen and has the beautiful Ochil Hills as a stunning backdrop. And as you can see from the air as well, there are so many walking opportunities in and around Glen itself. The fact that this can be reached within an hour of both Glasgow and Edinburgh just seems ridiculous, don't you think?
Originally known as Castle Gloom for its foreboding appearance, Castle Campbell stands sentinel high in the Ochil Hills, nestled between the Burn of Care and the Burn of Sorrow. With names like that, you'd expect to find it in Westeros, but instead, you'll find it here in Clackmannanshire, a short ride from the Royal Power Centre of Stirling, the crucible of Scotland. Despite its intimidating location, Castle Campbell isn't all grit. Remember, a castle has to be 2 things. It has to be able to put up a fight, and it has to house a laird and their noble household. So with its terrace gardens and Renaissance wings, Castle Campbell is more than capable of both. In fact, it's one of the best syntheses of fortified site and posh house anywhere in Scotland.
As we now expand on our journey around Scotland's great castles, let's head west first of all and into South Lanarkshire and the town of Bothwell. I've always liked to think of Bothwell Castle as Glasgow's own, and although it's around 20 minutes or so in the car outside of the city, the connection is clear thanks to the River Clyde, which runs alongside the ruins. It's a beautiful red sandstone structure as well, the kind of building material that is so ubiquitous in these parts and just sets off the scene perfectly.
It was at Bothwell Castle that I first learned the story of the real Braveheart. It has absolutely nothing to do with William Wallace and everything to do with Scotland's hero king, Robert Bruce, and James the Black Douglas, his fearsome lieutenant. James Douglas's descendants built a significant part of this castle, including the massive tower that's just behind me. Now, if you don't know the story, it's awesome. When Bruce died in 1329, he felt he had a lot to atone for, so he requested that his heart be removed from his body and taken on crusade, as you do, right? Now, the guy who did that was his lieutenant, James Douglas. He was the only one fierce enough to be able to carry out this mission. He joined a crusade in Spain, fought the Moors, but got killed. The Scots got caught out way out in front of the crusading army at a battle against the Moors. James Douglas realised, right, this is it, boys, they're totally surrounded by the enemy. He had Bruce's heart in a silver cask around his neck, and if Sir Walter Scott can be believed, he took that cask off from around his neck and said, "Go forward, brave heart, and I will follow thee or die." Chucked it into the middle of the enemy army, charged in, went down swinging. They found a ring of dead soldiers around Douglas when they recovered his body after the battle. What else was under his body? You guessed it, Bruce's heart. Brought it back to Scotland, and it was buried at Melrose Abbey. And that is the real Braveheart.
Bothwell Castle boasts international inspirations, with its main tower, or donjon, which is where we get the word dungeon from, being inspired by the Chateau de Coucy, a major castle in the north of France. Bothwell was considered so strong that when Edward I, King of England, attacked it in 1301, he had a special siege tower built in Glasgow specifically to take it on. Unfortunately for the Scots, it proved up to the task.
Kassel Cheatham is one of the remotest you could ever hope to find. You'll find it on the Lochaber coast in the West Central Highlands, and it sits just north of the worlds away feel that you get from the Ardnamurchan Peninsula, and it's this dramatic solitude that gets it on my list every single time.
In terms of castle design, it doesn't get more essential than this. A big sawed-off wall enclosing a tower, a typical Norse Gaelic arrangement. Like most Highland castles, myths and legends swirl around Cheatham's walls. It's said that in 1715, Chief Alan Moore of Clanranald had a vision of his own death at the impending Battle of Sheriff Muir. Alan torched his own castle, declaring, "I shall never come back. It is better that our old family house be given to the flames than forced to give shelter to those who are about to triumph over our ruin." His gamble paid off, for he died on the battlefield without ever seeing home again.
Next up, and we're heading east and to one of the Scotlanders' favourite locations where we've done several regional campaigns in the past, East Lothian, which is absolutely packed with endless historic ruins, but none are finer than Tantallon Castle, which hangs on precariously to Scotland's east coastline. This place has got brilliant views over to the Bass Rock, it's got squawking seabirds overhead, it's remote, it's got an incredible atmosphere, it's crumbling, it's on a cliff face. What more could any castle lover possibly ask for?
Anyone attacking Tantallon Castle would have been very aware that they were working against the odds, to say the least. They even came up with an expression for how tough it was to take the castle. Ding doon Tantallon, ding doon Tantallon, build a brig to the Bass. Basically, you're more likely to build a bridge to the Bass Rock over a mile out to sea than you are to take Tantallon Castle. King James V found this out in 1528 when he laid siege with over 20,000 men and still failed to take it by force. Only when resorting to bribery did he get inside.
Now, if you haven't been blown away by this fantastic list of Scottish castles yet, frankly there's something wrong with you. But this one will definitely get you there if you haven't quite made it. Kilchurn Castle. It may well have been photographed to death on Instagram, but there's no doubt that this is one of Scotland's most visually spectacular castles, and it's got a great atmosphere to boot. Right in the heart of Argyll, surrounded by nothing. It's got Loch on its banks, it's got a mountainous backdrop. It just could not be more the epitome of the Scottish ruin.
Like nearly every other Scottish castle, Kilchurn wasn't built in a oneer, it was the product of centuries of development. It began life as a good old medieval castle in the 15th century, became more of a barracks in the 17th century, and was only really made redundant by the construction of a thoroughly modern citadel in nearby Fort William. In the Western Isles of Scotland, the Sea Kings reigned supreme. Based out of a network of castles that are amongst the oldest in the realm, these wolves of the waves answered to no authority but their own. Kisimul Castle in the Outer Hebrides, a rugged and elemental chain of islands, is perhaps the wildest and most fantastical of the bunch. It's home to the Clan MacNeil, a proud clan who, according to lore, turned down a ride on Noah's Ark because the chief had a boat of his own. In perhaps the most Scottish twist imaginable, Kisimul Castle was leased to Historic Environment Scotland for 1,000 years in exchange for an annual rent of £1 and a bottle of whiskey.
We hope you've enjoyed this look at just some of the countless fantastical castles that Scotland has to offer. And we've been doing this a while, David and I, so you can follow back on our previous adventures around Scotland by clicking on the links, following us, subscribing, etc. in the description below.
And if you love Scotland and you don't want to miss another adventure with us, make sure to follow along with the Scotlanders. And I'm keen to know, what are your favourite Scottish castles? And especially if you had to make your last stand in one, which one would you choose?